So in this video I'm going to take you through some joint mobility exercises for the lower body. These are controlled articular rotations known as CARs, and they're based on the functional range conditioning system. So we're going to start from the toes, work our way all the way up to the hips. And we're just going to do a few repetitions of all the exercises so that you can get a feel for them. And once you're familiar with them, you could perhaps start to do a few more reps with each movement. So we're going to start with the toes and trying to get the toe joints moving in their full range so that we have access to really wide mobile feet. So the first thing we're going to do is lift up all the toes, spread them, bring them back down again. So just starting to feel movement through the feet. And then focusing just on the right foot, I'm going to keep the four toes down, press them down into the mat and lift just the big toe up and back down again. Lifting the big toe up as high as you can and then bring it back down to the mat. Slow, smooth movements. And the thing to watch with these toe raises we're doing is that the ankle stays relatively still. As you lift the big toe up, the ankle might bulge out to the side like that. More lift in the inner arch to try and help the movement. So see if you can keep the ankle steady and straight as you lift the big toe up and down 3 to 5 times. And then we'll press the big toe down into the mat and lift the 4 toes up. And with this movement, the ankle tends to collapse into the inside edge. So see if you can notice that compensation and minimize it. Lifting the toes up and down. Okay, once you've done 3 to 5 of that, lift up all the toes, hold them up, and then we're going to go from the top down. So bringing the big toe down and up again, but keeping the other 4 toes up in the air. If any of these movements feel difficult, you can actually use your fingers to help you, and this will help to train your muscles of what you're expecting of them, and it will gradually get easier for them to do it on their own. So feel free to sit on a chair and use your fingers to help. Then we're going to leave the big toe up and bring the 4 toes up and down a few times. And again, you can hold that big toe up with your fingers if you're finding this is a bit tricky to start with. Okay, second side, toes stay down, just lifting up the big toe, watching for any movement in the ankle, trying to keep the movement slow and smooth, and pressing the other 4 toes down into the mat, keeping them out of the movement. Then we'll keep the big toe down and lift the other 4 toes up. And you might notice my ankles trying to bulge in at the inside edge a little bit. And you generally find after about 3 or 4, there's a little bit more movement. And then it's all the toes up, going from top down. So from here, bringing the big toe up and down, keeping the other 4 toes in the air. And then keeping the big toe up and bringing the other 4 toes back down to the mat. And again, slow and smooth, maybe 5 repetitions. Okay, so that's lifting and pressing down. So another movement is to abduct and adduct the toes. That means to spread them apart and to squeeze them together. So we'll start with the right foot again, lifting up all your toes, spread them apart as much as you can, and then see if you can squeeze them all together. Widening the toes apart, squeezing them all together. You can actually use a pen between the big toe and the second toe and then work your way down with your pen to give you something to squeeze into as well. Okay, and then you might notice I'm having to lift the base of the top part of my foot up to squeeze together. Then we bring all the toes down to the mat and try the same thing, spreading the toes with the foot on the floor and then squeezing the toes together. Spreading the toes on the mat, squeezing together. Again, you can use your hands to help you if this movement feels tricky. Okay, and then we'll do the same on the left side, lifting them all up, spreading your toes as wide as you can. You can use your fingers to help encourage that movement. And then can you squeeze all the toes together without them moving up or down? And again, you can use a pen for this. So I find if I lift my foot up, I can find that squeezing together. This is a much harder movement for me than lifting and dropping. Toes down onto the mat, spreading them as wide as you can, and then squeezing them together. Wide as you can, squeezing them together. Okay. So that's the toe exercises for today, the toe cars. Now we're going to move on to the ankle. So we're going to either sit on a chair or you can sit on the floor like this and take your forearm underneath your knee, and you can even have two arms and hold onto your elbows. So we're trying to kind of lock the thigh so that it can't join in the movement. And then looking down at your ankle, we're going to take that ankle into a full circle. We're trying not to let the shin move side to side, keeping everything still, just movement in the ankle. So we're going to point the foot, there's your plantar flexion, turn the foot inwards for inversion, reach your toes up to the ceiling, dorsiflexion, and then turn the foot away from you, eversion, and then going back the other way, dorsiflexion, inversion, plantar flexion, eversion, and then back the other way, making sure nothing else is joining in the movement as much as possible. So the thigh's not moving, the shin's not moving. And you could do 3 circles in one way, one direction, and then 3 in the other, or you could do a full circle one way and then swap direction. And then let's change sides. So kind of locking the knee, locking the thigh, and finding that ankle circle. Going slowly enough that you can really check nothing else is moving, and trying to drive as much movement in those 4 points as you can. Eversion, dorsiflexion, inversion, and plantar flexion. And seeing what range you've got so that you start to notice over time how you perhaps are getting more movement. Okay, so there's the ankles. Now we're going to move up to the knees. So there's 2 movements for the knees. The first one is looking at rotation. So we tend to think of the knee as a hinge joint, but actually the tibia and the fibula, the 2 bones in the shin, have some rotational capacity as well that we want to be able to use. So the first method of doing this is to have your heel on the ground, hold your thigh. So what we're doing is locking the top of the leg. We're trying to find stillness in the ankle joint, and we're just going to get this area where the top bit of the tibia and fibula are to find rotation. So I'm just going to turn my shin outwards as much as I can. And the thing to watch here, you're holding your thigh, is the ankle trying to move side to side to help you. And then turning the other way, just watch that the outside edge of your foot doesn't turn to join in. You're trying to keep that ankle really locked. And then back the other way. You'll feel some sensation probably at that top bit, and then the other way. So just noticing your rotational capacity. The closer your foot is in towards your body, the more movement you can find. Whereas if your leg is straight, it's almost impossible to get the movement. So how much knee bend will help this movement? Okay, let's do the second side. I'm holding my thigh to keep it still. I'm having a good old knee bend there. And then turning side to side, trying my best to keep my ankle from joining in that movement. And I'm focusing on movement here at the top of the shin bones. Finding the rotational capacity for the knee joint. Okay, the next one is the kneecap. So standing up, showing you my very bruised knees, Just find your kneecap and just have your hands on both sides of it. And we're going to think of a clock face, and we're going to try and move the patella, the kneecap, around that clock face with as much movement as we can find. So I'm going to push my kneecap to the inside edge, and you want a really straight leg for this. It needs to be, your thigh needs to be relaxed and your knee needs to be dead straight. Your leg needs to be dead straight. And then you're going to push that kneecap inside, push it down as if you're going around all the numbers on a clock, push it outwards and then push it back up. And this can feel weird if you're not used to doing it. Make sure your thigh's relaxed and make sure your leg is as straight as it will go, and then go in the other direction for a few rounds as well. So even if it feels like you're not finding much movement, just keep at it, and you'll find that things start to move a bit more. So there is your kneecap rotational movement. So the last joint we're going to look at in the lower body is the hip joint. And there are different positions you can do controlled articular rotations for your hips. You can do them on a hands and knees position, you can do them lying down, you can do them lying on your side. So for this video we're going to do the standing up version, and you want to have something that you can hold on to, so either a wall or some surface, because we don't want to add the balance to it. We want to focus on the movement in the hip. And then we start lifting one leg up in front in hip flexion, keeping the pelvis as still as we can, so we're trying not to let it turn with us, and find external rotation. So you're going to drive your heel inwards away from the knee, and then we take the knee out to the side, pelvis staying facing forward. The external rotation will mean your heel is driving forward of you. From there into internal rotation, you're going to lift up the foot behind you and take the leg all the way back into hip extension. The knees will meet, the leg will come back down, and then back the way you came. So lifting the leg up behind you, hip extension, internal rotation of the thigh bone, and then we shift to external rotation as the knee comes up to the side. Push your heel away from you for that external rotation, and then the leg comes back to center, and you bring your leg back down. So that's one round. So a few key things to look out for are how the body will try and join in to help the movement, and we're trying to minimize that because we're driving as much movement in that ball and socket joint as we can. So as much tension as you can create in your front body to stay firm and keep everything still, the pelvis facing forward, tension in your supporting standing leg as well. And then just a couple of other things you can watch for. So when you start off, keep those hips level. As the knee goes to the side and you're driving your heel forward, watching that you're not turning as well. So just the best you can do without letting the pelvis start to move with you. And then a really common thing that happens is as we take the leg into internal rotation, which can be a tricky bit, and start to pull the leg behind us, what happens is that the lower back starts to join in and arch to try and help that movement. So what we're trying to do is once we go here and we're turning that leg inwards, it doesn't matter how high that leg is, let's see if you can maintain as best you can your spine in the neutral position, not letting it arch as we take that leg back and down. So same thing as you take the leg up behind you. It might not go very far behind you, that's fine, but rather than arching, we're just trying to keep as much of a straight position in that lower back as we can. Rotate out to the side into external rotation, driving the heel forward, and then the knee back to center, and bring that leg down. Okay, so let's do a full round on this side, and then we'll do a full round on the other side, and you can have a go at practicing that on your own. So the leg's going to come up, heel goes out to the side, take the knee out to the side, start to internally rotate, squeezing. You might really feel the muscles at the side of your bum there. The leg goes back and down. Take the leg behind you, hip extension without arching, knee out to the side, external rotation, pulling your heel forward, back up to the front. One more time, out to the side, lifting your foot up into internal rotation of the thigh bone, hip extension, it's hard work. Let the leg come down, back into hip extension, no back arch as possible. Internal rotation shifts to external, and then back to the front and down. Okay, let's do the other leg. Okay, so taking the leg up, finding some external rotation so the heel's driving away from the knee. Knee goes out to the side. Internal rotation, the foot's lifting up behind, taking the leg behind you, hip extension, and then the knees drop together. Lifting the leg up behind you, keeping your lower back long, shifting from that internal rotation to external, driving your heel forward, and the leg comes back to the front. Out to the side, internal, hip extension, back down, hip extension, internal rotation, shifts to external, just feeling that ball and socket joint moving, everything staying firm, and the hip flexion at the end, bring your leg down. So that's something you can build up to maybe 3 to each side. Okay, so we've covered toes, ankles, knee 2 different ways, and then the hip joint. And that covers all the calves for the lower body. So you could have a go at doing this video a couple of times till you feel really familiar with all the different movements, and then also do the same for the upper body video, and then put them all together and give yourself a 15-minute joint mobility routine, which hopefully will leave your body feeling really good every day.